Blog Talk Radio.
Minnie Graham was a great-grandmother. At 97, she suffered from dementia.
She was a fine Christian woman and very loving. She would do anything for anybody.
Graham lived in a nursing home outside Dallas for about a year when her family noticed bruises on her.
They said that she fell out of her wheelchair.
Do you believe that's what happened?
Absolutely not.
So Graham's family placed this clock, equipped with a hidden camera, in her bedroom. Graham resisted being changed. A nursing aide mocked her. Pulled, pushed, then, what sounds like a slap. The video also caught another aide shoving her in the back and face.
That should never happen to people, ever. In nursing homes, anywhere.
Brian Lee is Executive Director of Families for Better Care. His nonprofit elder advocacy group released what it says is the first comprehensive state-by-state review of nursing home care. It ranks and grades states based on 2012 federal data, combining staffing, inspections, deficiencies, and complaints. Alaska, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Hawaii got A's, getting F's, Texas, Louisiana, Indiana, and Oklahoma, where this hidden video caught a nursing assistant shoving a glove in a woman's mouth. In Ohio, which lacks staff, video caught a caregiver flinging a senior onto her bed.
State officials need to hold nursing homes accountable, and nursing homes need to hold themselves accountable and step up and start providing better care.
According to the report, just 7 states provided nursing home residents with more than 1 hour of professional nursing care daily. States that did the best had larger and more experienced staff.
I was wondering if you could explain your actions on that videotape.
We tried to speak to Minnie Graham's nursing aides. They declined. Both were fired and arrested. Their cases are still pending. As for Minnie Graham, she died within weeks of this video.
She just gave up on life. She didn't want to live anymore. And then to be treated like that in her last days, you know.
Advocates for the elderly say improvements must be made soon. The nursing home population is expected to increase 40% over the next decade. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, Dallas.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen of America. This is AJC Radio, where we bring the message of justice all around the world. Tonight is no exception, folks. As you heard in the opening clip tonight, elderly abuse in rest homes and assisted living homes across the USA. Folks, it is horrific. It is a tragedy. Hang on, we take off right now. And there you have it. I'm Lamont Banks along with Cliff Stewart, Dennis Merritt, William Williams tonight in the AJC Radio team. And folks, make no mistake about it. You remember how Grandma used to cook the cookies and do little things for you while you were growing up? Well, there's an epidemic going on in this country right now, and our grandmas and grandpas and great-grandmas and great-grandpas are being mistreated in rest homes all across this country. And I'm talking not only being mistreated, beaten, assaulted, sexually assaulted, you name it, and it just ain't proper. And pardon the lack of correct English on that note. William, when we talk about this issue tonight, this is a heart-wrencher, if you will, that this is something that's not nearly talked about enough. We're talking about the most vulnerable, along with children in our society that are being treated this way. Somebody's mom, somebody's dad, somebody's uncle, somebody's brother, you name it, to be treated on this type of level that we're going to expose tonight is a message that has to go out to America.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about this is a form of abuse that is, it's extremely sad to think that our elderly, they spent the time helping form us to be the individuals we are and go on and live lives that we that we've dreamed of, and as they're, at the end of their lives, if they're sitting there relaxing, they can't relax because they don't have the proper care. They're being mistreated. They're being abused. And, and a lot of them are in assisted living facilities because they need to be. They need that level of care. They need to be, monitored. But there's a way to do that, and without abuse and without harsh behavior.
Listen, to monitor somebody is to keep an eye out. These are people slapping these seniors in the face, in the mouth for no reason. Sitting in a wheelchair, you just start smacking these people. One guy actually put a pillow over the face of the guy sitting in his wheelchair for no reason, just to get a kick out of it. That's incomprehensible to me. And this is, again, if that was my father, this could be my father, my mother, my sister, my brother. That's not going to fly. And I think there needs to be more accountability for these rest homes. There needs to be an independent group. It's a shame that somebody has to oversee the treatment of seniors because you think that's just human kindness to do the right thing. Not in this society. Dennis, your thoughts?
And that is true. I, as you were talking, I was thinking about the screening process for employees. It's all about $1. We want to pay them as minimum. We want to pay minimum as possible. So the type of employees that we get, come on. I mean, you get what you pay for. But again, if you're not about care, if you're not about people, you should not be in that position. And then you talked about accountability.
Right.
If someone is caught doing something, they need to pay for it. I mean, that's assault, no matter how you look at it. And again, if you put the pillow over his face and he couldn't breathe, that's possibly attempted murder. But anyway, until people are held accountable, until we show that, hey, if you mess with these seniors or you do anything you shouldn't do, you're going to pay the price for it.
It's just something that, folks, this is going to be an interesting show. We're going to be joined at the bottom of the hour with Marty Oakley. She happens to be an advocate, also a radio show host, I believe on Blog Talk as well, and she is an advocate for seniors and the abuse that's happening to seniors right now. And when you think about it, as I was getting ready, preparing, and looking at some information on the show, so troubling, saddening, really breaks your heart to see this type of treatment down to the point of sexual assaulting dementia patients. Patients suffering with dementia that some paralyzed, cannot talk. You are sexually assaulting a senior. What are you even doing in that job? And who has failed here in proper checks and balances of who you're hiring to come into those rooms? And I'm not saying it's all on the onus of the organization, because a lot of times there may not be a record of anything. Somebody may have never been arrested for any type of sexual assault, but may just be that type of an individual. So I'll be careful with that, not to put onus on the corporations, but there needs to be a higher level of checks and balances, security, assurances that can help families feel comfortable in saying, look, if I place my mother here, she is safe. That is what people think, Cliff, as we look into this. And when you have the private-owned rest homes that cost up in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for care, you don't hear about these stories. It's always the lower-income communities, the lower-income places, maybe relying on government grants and funding and things like that. That should not be.
Well, just like Dennis said, I mean, you get what you pay for, but it shouldn't be that way. I mean, especially with any place that's government funded or granted, it's that even more so there should be some some checks and balances, some type of review on a very timely basis that says somebody's going in to check on these facilities. But money talks. So if it's a place that's poorly funded, you get people that get hired at a lower rate. It's just sad, because it's kind of the same thing that happens with child care facilities. If you are not a facility that is very expensive, you get some of the same type of activity there and abuse. But when it comes to the elderly, there needs to be some type of federal program in place that if you want to be licensed, even at the state level, if you want to be licensed, then you should have to be scrutinized and subjected to some type of review or inspection, just like some of the correctional facilities. It's sad, but it needs to be done because most of the time people do not care.
No, absolutely right. And these are things that we're going to look at here tonight. Again, folks, feel free to dial into the show tonight. The number is 646-200-0628. That's 646-200-0628. As we uncover, again, this type of issue tonight, abuse of the elderly in America's rest homes and assisted living, just breaks your heart. What is this country coming to, and what needs to be done? I believe there should be some oversight of these agencies, these organizations, even Congress, where they have to be held accountable. They shouldn't have to be federal facilities for Congress to get involved and say, well, look, these are your constituents. Some of these voters, they come out of your districts across this country. So there's an invested interest not only for just to do the right thing, but this benefits you. Do you care about your seniors, which I believe they do, in your communities that are locked up? These are seniors that vote. These are seniors that matter. These are not the forgotten. They matter. Seniors matter. And a lot of these seniors have contributed a great deal to this country, whether it's small businesses, whether it's the military. A lot of these elderly men in these rest homes are former veterans, that are current veterans that have served for this country. Something has to be done about it, and we need to definitely deal with that, which we are going to do tonight. And folks, you can again feel free to dial into the show. And right now we're going to go to some current news right now. And what's current news? Let's see. Trump. That's where we start tonight. Apparently, on the story with Donald Trump Jr., his accountability for the meeting with the Russian lawyer was dictated, as far as his explanation, by President Trump himself. That being coming from the Wall Street Journal, story broke yesterday that President Trump, dictated the response for his son to give in response when the story broke that he had this meeting. Now, what's mind-boggling about this one, if you're doing nothing wrong, why do I have to dictate to you what to say if the truth of the matter is you were there for adoption? Guess what, folks? That was a complete lie. It has nothing to do with any adoption. And the president continues, William, to get his foot in his mouth.
Absolutely. I mean, they were talking about it today. It's a continuation of more and more lies, deceit, cover up. And so, now they've got to the point of there was a couple of Republican senators, GOP senators, are just saying, you know what, we've had enough. We've had enough of this stuff. We're going to have to stand up to the president. And, of course, I think they drew some encouragement or maybe some courage from John McCain's speech last week when he came on the House floor. He said, listen, we are here to work with the president, not necessarily for the president. We work for the people. And so there's a lot that's going on. This is still constantly unfolding, this whole Russia story. And there's of course, his supporters are still saying it's fake news. I don't know how they're holding on to that. The old saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. And so we're beyond smoke. We're at a full out fire, and everybody's just waiting on Mueller.
This is an evacuation process at this point.
Yeah, at that point.
So, ladies and gentlemen, read more about this on your news. There's also a lawsuit. Fox News concocted Seth Rich story with oversight from White House, basically talking about there was a death of a DNC member, and it was concocted with oversight from the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, where the Trump administration resides. That story to be continued. Folks, on the other side of the break, we deal with abuse of the elderly in America's rest homes. It's going to get serious. Call your parents, your grandparents, all of them. There needs to be outrage of the treatment of our seniors in this country. We're coming right back. This is AJC Radio, where we bring the message of justice all around the world. We'll be right back.
Do you know anyone who's been sent to prison who's innocent? The United States is experiencing record numbers of exonerations in cases where people were wrongfully convicted of crimes they did not commit. If you believe that no one should be sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, there is something that you can do today. By remembering a just cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation, you can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a just cause at 855-529-4252 or visit a-justcause.com and click the donate button. A Just Cause is a 501c3. Wrongful convictions are wrong. Let's be the voice of those who can't speak from behind the wall.
Say goodbye to affordability and say hello to losing control. Discover Price Gougasol, the latest outrageously expensive drug from Big Pharma. It's impossible to afford and reverses the ability to pay other bills. Because drug companies raise prices to pay for commercials like this one, side effects may include overdrawn bank accounts, bad credit scores, higher healthcare costs, children who don't get Christmas presents, and in some cases, the need to stop taking your medicine. If you experience any of these side effects, contact your financial advisor right away. Out-of-control drug costs are no joke. Yet 9 of the 10 biggest pharma companies spend more on advertising than research and development. Let's solve the cost crisis now. Visit csrxp.org.
Sergeant Michelle Garcia served meritoriously in Iraq and has the medals to prove it. Soon after leaving the Navy, Lieutenant Chris Scott found a job, a home, and started a family of his own. Corpsman Richard Stokely took the skills he learned in Vietnam and put them to good use as a paramedic. But soon after leaving the military, each of these veterans fell on hard times and faced homelessness. Even after Michelle lost all her savings, even after Chris wasn't able to pay his mortgage, and even after Richard battled alcoholism for years, they each reached out for help when they needed it most. A simple phone call put them in touch with a trained professional from the Department of Veterans Affairs. That call got Michelle a place to stay until she could afford one of her own, put Chris in touch with employment assistance, and found Richard a substance abuse program. These veterans are success stories not only for how they were able to help others while serving their country, but for how they were able to let others help them. If you know of or are a veteran in need, make the call.
Odds of becoming an astronaut, 1 in 13,200,000. Odds of being struck by lightning, 1 in 576,000. Odds of dating a supermodel, 1 in 88,000. Odds of bowling a perfect game, 1 in 11,500. Odds of being trapped in an elevator, 1 in 24,528. Odds of catching a ball at a major league game, 1 in 563. Odds of an injury from shaving, 1 in 6,585. Odds of tripping while texting, 1 in 10. Odds of getting cancer in your lifetime, 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women.
It's up to us
to change the odds for our generation.
For the ones we love. For our future.
If you don't like the odds,
stand up. Stand up to cancer.
Of a BART police officer who shot and killed a man.
When I first saw the Oscar Grant footage, like a lot of people here in Oakland, I was outraged.
As soon as I heard about it and I went online and I seen what had happened, tears came down my eyes.
It was something that was very alarming as a police officer and as a citizen of Oakland.
It was like such a blatant murder.
The other city in trauma. Anyone that's seen that and looks at it is in trauma.
My hope is that people will express their concern with police brutality, but they will do so in constructive ways that don't include violence.
We cannot perpetrate this cycle of harm and violence in this community.
Because we do have to live here and they terrorize the city and it's only going to make it worse for us.
They killed our young black men.
You can protest, you can try to make a change, but there is a positive way you can do it.
And make sure we let the police know and that we're aware that stuff ain't right out here. We're trying to fix it.
In a way that is about using your voice for justice
and making Oakland a safer place for everyone to live and get along as one.
Violence is not just.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is AJC Radio. I'm Lamont Banks, along with Cliff Stewart, Dennis Merritt, William Williams, and the entire AJC Radio team, including K Productions tonight. And I'll tell you what, folks, this is something tonight that we're dealing with that needs to take really a serious look at it. The treatment of our seniors in our society. Our senior citizens do a lot, have done a lot for this country, and for them to be slighted in the way that is happening in assisted living homes across this country is unspeakable. And William, without a doubt, this platform needs to be used tonight for that purpose.
Absolutely. I mean, people need to be aware of this is a very serious problem. And it's going on, for quite some time. We've heard cases of it, and now it's time for our audience and for us just to be aware of the situation because, we may be facing that with, our mothers, our fathers, or our grandparents that are sitting there in an assisted living facility, and we're thinking, or we're taking for granted that they're okay. They're not being abused. They're not struggling to live or struggling to get around, and they're getting the proper care that they should receive. And so our listeners need to be aware of it.
Dennis, your thoughts on that? For me personally, I've always liked seniors and listened to stories from senior citizens and talked to them. I'm trying to figure out, where does profit overtake human kindness and decency? I used to work at a rest home many, many, many years ago, probably about 25, 30 years ago. And I'll tell you what, it was interesting then when I walked down the hallway and would see seniors being ignored, pushed up against a wall. They're crying, saying, somebody help me, I want my medicine, I want this or that. And the just lack of care. And I'm walking around, at that point I used to drive the seniors to different appointments that they had to go to during the course of the day. But outside of that, I was helping assist in cleaning up the rooms, making sure they were okay, they were comfortable. And when I look back on it, that was then. That was many years ago. It's a lot worse now. Statistics-wise, and our research team is going to be pulling it up for us, statistics on assaults in rest homes have climbed. Sexual assaults have climbed in rest homes. Dennis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I tell you, it's truly sad, but it's true. And I think what we have to do as America is, again, hold people accountable. It's so funny that, our seniors are kind of like tossed away. You get a certain age, you start getting dementia. You need a lot of attention. Children usually can't give that attention. So they put them in a rest home, hoping that this facility is going to take care of their mother or father or grandmother or grandparent, however you want to look at it. And you got people working there that, they're either overworked or they don't have the proper education to assist in the care of these seniors. So a lot of things happen. I mean, you got to know a lot. I mean, it takes psychology. It takes a lot of stuff to deal with a senior, because a senior, they're at that age where they're starting to, lose hearing. Some of them losing sight. Some of them lose their memory. And so it takes a lot of care. So it takes a special person to be in that job environment. But again, until we start saying, okay, if something happens at your facility, boom, we're going to lock it down. We're going to put cameras. We're going to do a lot of different things to, monitor you. And then if you got a problem with that, we'll just close you down. I think we have to be very strict and forceful when it comes to taking care of our seniors.
No, that's without question. Listen to a couple of these stats here. Average number of elderly abuse cases each year are over 2 million, William. Is that correct? Over 2 million 150,000 cases. Is that correct? Am I reading that right, William?
I believe so.
That's unbelievable. Percent of elderly population that will experience some type of abuse is 9.5%. Neglect, breakdown of the reported elderly abuse cases, neglect 58.5%. Neglect.
That's over half.
How am I neglected in a rest home where all my needs are supposed to be taken care of, everything that I need is supposed to be provided? How am I suffering neglect at almost 60%?
Inadequate staff.
That's incomprehensible. Physical abuse, 15.7% of these seniors are abused physically. Financial exploitation, 12.5%. Emotional abuse, 7.3%, excuse me. Sexual abuse, 0.4%. This is incomprehensible. And this is an establishment that is supposed to be taking care of its seniors. You advertise them. You know what they show on the TV commercials? So a swimming pool, somebody playing pool, ping pong, sitting down at a table, it looks like a 5-course meal. It's false advertising, buddy.
That's the truth. I mean, you're right. You see, you see them there, and they're
laughing.
They're laughing. They're playing bingo. They're doing activities with other seniors. And it seems very positive. They're happy. They're you see the cheers and the joy in their face. But this is at risk. I mean, you know what I'm saying? When you think about this, when you talk about almost 60% of them are neglected. When you talk about the physical abuse at 15%, when you talk about the financial abuse, I mean, that's our exploitation.
I mean, you're just stealing people's stuff.
Stealing people's money. Because even one of the research articles I was sitting here reading was talking about how much that aspect alone has increased here in the recent years, where seniors are at risk of abuse because of financial exploitation. So you have to watch. You have to watch their accounts, watch their information, see if they're being stolen. Things are being stolen from them. Money's being stolen from them. So
no, absolutely right. And wow, we're going to get into that discussion. We are honored tonight. We're going to turn the page here. We're honored to have. It looks like Marty Oakley is going to be joining us here momentarily, and she is someone that is an advocate for seniors, and we can't thank her enough for joining us tonight. Marty, how are you tonight?
I'm just fine, just old like the rest of them. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Marty, and I want to thank you for your service in your advocacy in addressing this very troubling issue that we find ourselves discussing tonight with the abuse of our elderly in these rest homes, in these assisted living homes. We were talking earlier in regards to the private living homes that are with the I think the wealthiest of
yes.
America, and they don't have these issues. And it's sad, but the higher the dollar that's spent, and the wealthy, when they put their parents in assisted living, I can guarantee you, they're not going to suffer these type of issues because that's the price tag that comes with it. However, in what we have found in rest homes that are organizations, corporations, these corporations are not necessarily broke, but they simply don't put. They simply don't put the care. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our listeners, Marty, and tell us a little bit about your position on this and what you're doing, hopefully, to solve some of these issues that we talk about tonight.
Well, I've been hosting a radio show on Blog Talk for 7 years now called AJC Radio. Most of that, we're coming up on 1,000 broadcasts, and most of that has been devoted to the issue of elder abuse, neglect, and guardianship, conservator abuse, what happens to the elderly in this country. We are a country that has been dismantled economically. We produce nothing. We manufacture nothing to speak of. We have nothing left to buy, sell, and trade but us, and that is exactly what they are doing. When you talk about the elderly and in these, I call them warehouses, they're usually owned by corporations. Many of the people, I would say the majority of the people in them, have been seized under a false guardianship, mostly because they aged with assets, a new age crime. And we have been targeted. And financial exploitation is the least of it. When you speak about the abuse that occurs in these nursing homes, it is horrendous. One of the things that's never supposed to be done to anyone over the age of 60, anyone showing any signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, is psychotropic drugging. This is Haldol, Cybrexa, Seroquel, Prozac, these type of brain-damaging and altering medications. It is the very first thing they do because they have no intention of taking care of them. So they are drugged to the point that they are dysfunctional, they can't move. You can recognize these homes immediately if you are allowed entrance, which should be an uncommon thing. It's like walking into a tomb. Wow. Everyone's either lying prone, staring at the ceiling, strapped in a chair with their head over to the side, drooling. There is no activity that you speak of as advertised. There is nothing. They don't intend to take care of them. They short-staff them to increase their bottom line. And they hire the least qualified people at the least wages they can possibly pay to bring them in there to supposedly take care of these elderly people. And what you end up with is this horrendous epidemic of abuse. I mean, some of it is so disgusting. I can't, and they allow these places to keep running.
Right.
That's what they don't stop them. They don't shut them down. They might get cited. They might get fined. They might get penalized. Oh, big whoop. It still goes on.
Now, Marty, I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said these elderly people are strapped down in chairs?
Yes.
What are
they do it because what will happen is these people many times, like I say, are seized under these phony guardianships, usually so that, and you have to understand what guardianship means. It means you become a ward of the state. At this point, you have suffered a civil death, which in legal definitions is deemed to be the same as a natural death in its consequences. This is what happens to felons. They suffer a civil death. Their constitutional rights and protections are taken from them. In the case of guardianship, their actual identity is stolen from them and handed to a guardian who now acts as that person. They now have access to all of their assets, and the conversion of property and liquid assets, personal, private, whatever, is immediately converted over to them. The billing on this is unbelievable. $500 for writing a 2-sentence letter, $300 for a 5-minute phone call. Everything they do is tagged to the estate. The estate of the targeted victim pays for everything, the judge, the jury, the executioner. These people... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please continue, Marty. Go ahead.
Well, these people are upset. They have been kidnapped from their homes. We call it granny snatching. They have been kidnapped from hospital beds, installed in these warehouses they call nursing homes. And what we find is it is the same judge with the same attorneys, the same guardians, the same agency personnel, and the same participating warehouse that they run people in a mill. They just keep running them through. That guardian who wants that estate can stand up in a probate court, and I'm still trying to figure out how a living, breathing person gets brought into a probate court, which is supposed to become active only upon presentation of a death certificate. And then it's right. Whether the will is that there's a will or there is not one. But somehow we bring the living person in there, declare them civilly dead but still breathing. They are installed. The first thing that they do, every statute in every state says isolation should be the last resort. It's the first thing that happens. They are cut off from their family, from their friends, from maybe churches that they belong to. They can talk to no one. They can see no one. These people are panicked. The head nurse will call the doctor and say, they're being combative. Oh, we'll give them this, like Zyprexa, Haldol, Seroquel, any of these medications, and they give it to them in elephant doses that renders them absolutely unable to do anything but breathe. And this is done absolutely every day of the week. It also allows them, like I say, to short staff, to hire the least qualified people at the lowest possible wage and increase their bottom line. This isn't about taking care of people. We have become a commodity, and they are buying, selling, and trading us. I just returned from the Whistleblower Summit in Washington, D.C., where we were allowed to present the first panel ever on guardianship, conservator, and child abuse through the courts. What happens to family in these so-called family courts? First time ever they've had a panel on that. This is so huge. As I told them at that summit, we are one step away from the community auction block. And if that doesn't send chills down your spine, we actually have caught these guardians or judges even advertising they had X number of clients coming through the court and you could bid on getting guardianship of them. We are under attack.
That's
Being
crazy.
over 60, we are under attack. We have big red X's on us. I am over 60, very close to 70. This scares me to death.
No, I understand that. This is a tragedy. I'm going to play a clip real quick for you, Marty. I want to give your thoughts on this clip. If the country is starting to move seniors as cattle, you have got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not even a little bit.
And the exposure needs to be more, without question.
Yes.
And thus for this show tonight and your gracious appearance on this program, this is so troubling to me. I mean, you're treating these seniors like enemies of the United States of America.
You've hit it right there. We are considered expendable and disposable. Many people talk about Obamacare this and Obamacare that. Obamacare specifically cites seniors as a threat to society. And if you look at hospice through Obamacare, it got an infusion of $11.5 billion over 10 years to change their mandate from one of being, a good Samaritan at end of life. I went to an orientation here about 5 years ago just to see what it was about. What they were telling people who were coming into hospice to work as volunteers is that if it was a senior citizen, especially if they were 70 or older, you were to discourage ongoing treatment, expensive treatments. You should point out to them that they've lived their life and they've had their chance, and it's time to let go. Don't put your family through this.
No, and I'll tell you, regardless of what side of the debate a person is on Obamacare or the Republican Party,
right? I'm a political atheist. I don't believe none of them. But go ahead.
No, yeah, and I think the problem you have here on the other side of that coin, the proposed health care that the GOP has proposed hurts two vulnerable people in our society: the elderly and the lower income families are affected.
Yes, exactly.
This is bad. I'm going to play this clip, Marty. I'm going to get your thoughts on it. One more.
Okay.
Let's see what it is.
It's not every day you meet someone like Conchi Bretos, who has an idea this big.
How are you?
Conchi, who spent years in state government, is on a mission to rescue low-income senior citizens who might otherwise end up in nursing homes at state expense. If not for Conchi, Rafaela Diaz would have been sent to a nursing home. Instead, Rafaela, at 102, still has her own apartment in this public housing complex for seniors in downtown Tampa.
Now, this is my living room.
So does 90-year-old Wilma High.
Oh, dear. Who would want to go to a nursing home if you're as able as I am?
They don't need a doctor. They don't need a nurse. They just need to be supervised.
Conchi's big idea began with a question. How come so many senior citizens cared for at taxpayer expense were being put into nursing homes when they didn't need nursing home care?
It turns out, under Medicaid, the only kind of state-funded care seniors are entitled to is in a nursing home, which costs Medicaid $47 billion a year, a cost Conchi calls wasteful.
There is a place for nursing homes, but it has become the dump yard for every low-income senior and disabled adult in this country.
So her idea, let low-income seniors who often live in public housing stay in their apartments. She gets exemptions from Medicaid to bring assisted living services to them. 3 meals a day, housekeeping, transport to the doctor, help with medications. For Wilma High, service at home is perfect.
There's a lot of seniors like you, aren't there?
That's right. That's right. You don't need a nursing home, but you need extra care.
And taxpayers get extra savings. A nursing home in Florida costs $48,000 per person every year. Conchi's assisted living costs $18,000, including housing, a yearly savings of $30,000 for every senior. Back in Washington, the former chief of Medicaid, Mark McClellan, says pioneers like Conchi are forcing change.
It's a good example of how people working around the country, the grassroots level, can change the way a whole big bureaucratic program works.
How would you describe the overall need for this?
It's a crisis. It's no longer a need.
That's why the federal government is paying attention to her big idea. It's becoming the model for long-term care. Don't move seniors to care they don't need. Figure out what they need and bring it to them.
When we come back.
Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Tampa.
Well, there you have it. Given some explanation and some opportunities, at least, of a way out. I think the numbers are staggering. When you talk about Medicaid, Marty, $49 billion a year for nursing home funds comes from the federal government through Medicaid. And this is something that at least the latest proposal was going to slash Medicaid drastically.
Yes.
Then what happened? This is This is something no one's addressing the issue with resolution. And in these nursing homes, this is what, and I want you to get your thoughts on this, Marty. So you have Medicaid that is paying about $49 billion a year for nursing homes as far as funding. But then the nursing homes that the $49 billion is going to are homes that are abusing their seniors.
Yes.
So what's
wrong with this picture? Mm-hmm.
Talk to me, Marty. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, the thing is here, you're dealing with corporations, and they have one fiduciary duty, and that is to make a profit. And if they have to short shrift you in a nursing home, they'll do it. And they get funding. They all get funding through Medicaid and Medicare. Now, this lady brought up something very salient there. What it costs in a nursing home as opposed to what it costs to keep you in your own home. It costs, like an average here where I live in Minnesota, of maybe $2,600 a month in home care. That's someone to come in and clean and look after you, help you with laundry, daily tasks, as opposed to being in a nursing home, which on average will cost you close to $10,000 a month. Now, any person with any common sense would say, geez, we can save about $7,000 a month here per person if we just provide these services at home. They won't do it. They won't pay for that. Why not? The other thing I found out, everything is on a cash incentive program linked to the federal government, either through Health and Human Services or some other bogus agency they've got. So there is this cash incentive, and they get X number of dollars for dragging X number of people through the system every quarter. And they get funding for that. That funding goes directly into the state treasury. Now, I started looking for the money trail. I always look for the money trail. I found it in child support recovery. That $1.5 billion that they claimed they had to borrow to keep Social Security solvent 2 years ago was actually to fund child support recovery, which allowed the federal government access to the state, and the money train starts rolling. Under Title 20, you find block grants to the states, and I'll use right off the top of my head, Illinois as an example, got right at $50 million in a block grant from the federal government. 19 million of that, 19 million, was earmarked for elder services and care. I can't find where that money went. I can't find where it went anywhere close to any elderly person. Now, if you take $19 million and give it to me, I guarantee you I can take care of every elderly person in this state for a whole year quite well. And yet this money disappeared, and they're nailing taxpayers for more and more. The other part of this is the outright fraud in billing through the medical industry. these nursing homes are like a cash ATM for Medicare and Medicaid. $30 to $60 billion a year is defrauded from Medicare and alone through these fraudulent services that are never provided, double billing, billing 4 or 5 times in the same day for, say, something like x-rays, the very same set of x-rays. You can turn this into Social Security fraud tip line, and they won't do anything about it. This all is tied to this corporate contracting. Your state agency, Medicaid, is contracted to the federal agency that controls Medicaid. This is done through a memorandum of understanding, which is followed with the formal corporate contract, which then is followed up under the Unfunded Mandates Act with funding, which you and I would look at and see as bribery. And it's in the billions of dollars. There is big money in old people. They just don't want to take care of them. And it's very important that the public be convinced that we Americans just do not want our old people. So we just cast them in these nursing homes, and we don't care about them. They don't talk about the part where you're denied visitation. They don't talk about the part where you catch them abusing them. You go in, you cannot take pictures. If you're caught taking pictures, you are put out and given a no trespass notice. You cannot intervene. The way we have caught many of these people being abused is we've had installed what we call granny cams, a hidden camera that have caught on film these so-called nursing home workers violently abusing these elderly patients. And yet when they're confronted about how did they get the bruises, how did they get about, they fell out of bed. Some of these people must spend the entire evening just rolling out of bed. They slipped in the bathroom. Well, they're not ambulatory. How could they have slipped in the bathroom? Well, something else happened. But even when you catch them, do you know that these people don't get prosecuted? We had that one situation, I believe it was in South Carolina, where they were taking Alzheimer's patients, stripping them down naked and forcing them to fight one another, filming it. They actually put it up on YouTube. 26 workers involved. And the judge said, they really didn't do anything wrong. They were just having a good time. They didn't have any ill intent, and let them all walk.
So why don't somebody strip that judge naked and let him become a sport? Since there's nothing wrong. Are you kidding?
Exactly.
Right now?
No.
So these guys are just having fun. What if that was your mom or dad? Judge?
Yeah.
What's the name of this judge?
Right off the head, I don't know, but I can look that up and send that information to you because this absolutely went insane on the net. This is absolutely, this stuff goes on all the time. But what they don't tell you is that 80% of the time, those people in that nursing home were seized under a fraudulent guardianship, an emergency petition, where the guardian stands up in front of a judge and reads off this laundry list. They supposedly found them neglected and abused. They found them dirty, covered in feces. They were starving. They were dehydrated. And somebody took some money. We've got to save them. And they get this guardianship. This is identity theft. This is exactly what this is. It's identity theft. That guardian now assumes the identity of the person they have just captured.
And
the theft begins.
And Marty, my thought is that there has to be a more thorough process for a guardian to just jump up and say, hey, I found him, I'm going to help him. You turn over the rights of this citizen of America to God knows who. You've turned that power over to. You lock them in a rest home where they get abused, they become sport. This is absolutely insane. These are human beings here. Marty, we're coming right back. Can you come back with us on the other side of this break?
I can.
Okay, I want to make sure we're respectful of your time. Your insight tonight and perception of what you're talking about is very informative to our listeners and to me as well. Ladies and gentlemen of America, this is AJC Radio. We're talking some troubling things here. We're going to get more. We've got some more information and stories we're going to share with you on the other side of this break. Marty Oakley one of the champions of justice and fighting injustice for our seniors across this land. This is AJC Radio. We'll be right back. For a kid whose mom or dad is in prison, life is tough. Now add a wrongful conviction to that. Life just got a little bit tougher. Trying to explain to friends why mom or dad is not at the school play or at the ball game is something that no kid should ever be faced with, especially if mom or dad is innocent. Ladies and gentlemen, get involved today to stop the epidemic of wrongful convictions. By remembering a Just Cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation, you can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a Just Cause today. 1-855-529-4252. We seek justice for the children as they go to bed at night and mom's not there, dad's not in the other room to make them feel safe. Not because dad or mom did anything wrong, because justice could not be found. Join us for the children, for they truly are our future.
You can tell a lot about someone by what they spend their money on, their priorities, their concerns, and their motives. Big Pharma says their top priority is research and development. They say that prescription drug costs are so high because they spend so much on research. But the simple truth is 9 out of the 10 biggest pharma companies spend 50% more on advertising than they do on research and development. It's true, tens of billions more. The more they spend, the clearer it becomes. Big Pharma's priorities are more ads, more sales, and higher costs to you. It's time for Big Pharma to get their priorities straight. Americans deserve open and honest prescription drug pricing. Let's solve the cost crisis now. Visit csrxp.org.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can motivate your audience.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can teach your children.
I can boost your bottom line.
I can add value to your workplace.
I could be a loyal and productive employee.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
If you don't recognize my talents and ability.
If you don't hire me.
If you don't have an open mind and a workplace that's open to everyone.
If you don't realize that America works best when everybody works.
What can you do?
What can you do?
What can you do?
You can remember that it worked.
It's what people can do.
It's what people can do that matters.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Over 1 million people are sitting in the prisons of America for nonviolent offenses. That's why I'm asking you to join the American Civil Liberties Union and help us in the fight to end mass incarceration. We spend over $80 billion a year incarcerating people. Alternatives to prison, like community service, drug treatment, and rehabilitation, costs less and can turn lives around. It's time for fair justice. It's time for smart justice. And we need your help.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is AJC Radio, where we bring the message of justice all around the world. Tonight, we're dealing with a very, very troubling issue tonight that faces our nation. It seems to be an epidemic across this country about the mistreatment and cruel treatment and assaults happening to our seniors in rest homes. And we are privileged to be joined by Marty Oakley, a young lady that's actually putting the information to us very, very sincerely. Marty, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule this evening to shine some light on this problem that we are so troubled with tonight.
Well, I appreciate you addressing this. I have encouraged many people to start radio shows, to write, to do whatever they can to get out there. We've had other shows come up. They can't. One of the things I pointed out at the summit was our legislators, these politicians, cannot say they don't know. They do know. They do know, and they won't do anything. We have been termed, those of us over 60, boomers, as they call us, as the silver tsunami, as if we are something destructive, something to be feared, something terrible that's happening to the country. And I hear young people talking about, well, if these old people would get out of the way, and referring to Social Security as an entitlement, like it's some kind of welfare. Excuse me, folks, but I contributed to that program for 50 years.
That's right.
I'm entitled to recoup my investment. That's why you took the money from me, so it would be there when I got to this age. And
exactly.
But this demonizing of older people, this is absolutely unforgivable. It's unforgivable. Everything these young people are complaining and whining about, people my age put there for them. Those resources they claim are theirs and we're consuming, we created those resources. At least appreciate where they came from. But the disrespect and the way we are portrayed in the media, the way we are portrayed in various places as though we are an assault on the country, I resent that. I resent that with everything I've got. We are worth our lives. Everything you have, we put there. We worked for. We helped build. Everything. So I don't want to hear this stuff about how I'm getting some kind of welfare. The other part of this is these illicit guardianships. This is the transfer of wealth. When they talk about the redistribution of wealth, and it's always, oh, you're stealing from the rich and giving it to people who don't want to work. That's not what's really happening. $30 billion a year estimated annually is stolen from elderly people who have been captured under these god-awful guardianships, stripped of their identity, of their rights, of their protections, and their very lives and the product of their life's work. They have been robbed. They are installed in these warehouses. Their last days many times are so miserable that the most merciful thing that could happen to them is that they do die so that the suffering stops. And we haven't got one honest politician out there who will stand up and call this out for what it is. This is a genocide. And it's a theft in progress.
No, absolutely, Marty. Let me read some statistics for you. And there is Representative Henry Waxman, Democrat out of California, has spoken out about the statistics of the elderly abuse in nursing homes. We want to give him credit for that. He is speaking about it. He's raising awareness as well. But listen to this statistic. Some studies of annual rates of nursing home suicides across the country seem to show a higher rate in facilities ranging from 16.5 per 100,000 residents to 34.8 per 100,000. Population, that's staggering.
It is.
And if you're in a rest home and you feel a need to take your life because of the way that you are being treated, that is the most troubling thing I've ever heard. Dennis?
And it's troubling because you would think, first of all, for a senior to even be put in a home is truly an undertaking. Because families usually, some families try to hold on to their parents, and then some, because of the way this world is today, both parents working, so they don't have time, and so they put their parents in a home thinking that they're going to be taken care of, but it's just not that way. As Ms. Oakley was saying to us earlier, it's like a warehouse. It's almost, I tell you, William used the expression elderly prison. And I mean, that's just a harsh way of looking at it, but it's so true. It's almost like, let's get them off the street. Let's put them in prison. Let's pay folks the minimum to take care of them. And they look at it as though, hey, they're going to die anyway. So let's not spend too much money on it. And that's so sad that we have become a nation that lacks that love. I mean, I'm telling you, I love my grandmother. I mean, she was it. I mean, she took care of me. And then to find out, if which it never happened to me, but to find out she's put into a senior prison and mistreated daily. And then when I get there, everything's all good, but it's just so sad. We have to be the voice. We have to continue to speak out. And we have to make sure that America get on board, because one day we're all going to be seniors if we're allowed to live.
Well,
you're exactly right.
And Marty, we're going to play a clip for you. I want to get your thoughts on this as we, again, educate our listeners tonight. Go call your mother. Make sure you go in there and hug your grandmother tonight, your mom tonight, your grandfather, your fathers. Listen, for me personally, I would never consider, if it was in my power, to place my mother in a rest home. She took care of me, raised me. I'm going to make sure she's taken care of. I mean, that's my personal perspective of it, that and maybe everybody thinks it a little bit differently, but I can't do that.
No.
But when you do it, and I'm not condemning those that do it if they feel like this is something they have to do, but you have to find the right place, a place that you would be comfortable at. You have to make sure you're comfortable. Again, I can't go there because I would never do that. But for those that do, you need to be aware of the abuse that's going on in these nursing homes. I'm going to play this clip for you, Marty, and for our listeners, we're going to talk about it on the other side of this clip.
Team investigation. Cake News showed you video of abuse going on at a local nursing home.
Now, that video, if you recall, was horrifying. Well, we continue to track this story. We wanted to go beyond the video to make sure that it affects change. The video is hard to watch. You see a registered nurse at Victoria Falls Nursing Center in Andover take 61-year-old Donna Culture out of her wheelchair and drop her on the floor, turn out the light, and leave the room. After 25 minutes, the same nurse walks in, drags Donna to the center of the floor, leaves, and turns out the light once again. This is just one instance in 4 days of video that the state called evidence of abuse and neglect. Soon after Cake News first aired the video, a felony charge was filed against the nurse involved. But the victim's family and we wanted more change. We showed State Representative Brandon Whipple the video in May. He promised he would help change the law.
First, I just want to tell you guys that footage was terrible.
Last week, Representative Whipple met with Donna Culture's family at the Cake Studios to tell them about a bill that he introduced last week. Currently, only state background checks are mandated for those who take care of our loved ones. This new bill would broaden that to include national background checks for all nurses and nurses' aides. The bill is bare bones, but Whipple said he wanted to get the conversation started as soon as possible.
Once we get a hearing on that and it's in committee, is to have people like you come up and to tell us your story and to tell us, what else we should be doing.
The Cultures, along with elderly advocates, already have 2 suggestions. 1, stiffer consequences for those who are running nursing homes where abuse occurs.
Because they should know what's going on inside their facility.
And I think
they really should.
They just
ignore it.
In fact, in the report last May, employees of Victoria Falls said they stopped reporting abuse to administrators because it, quote, took too long and nothing was ever done about it. The Cultures say if administrators had been held more accountable, their mother may not have been abused. The other suggestion, the owners of facilities need to be forced to hire more people. Staffing requirements have not been updated since 1980.
They'll have one aide to 16 patients. You can't do that. They get paid good money. Them nursing homes do. They can afford more than one aide to 16 people.
In fact, also in this report, it states that Victoria Falls failed to provide sufficient nursing staff to provide nursing and related services to maintain the well-being of the residents. Victoria Falls was slapped with one of the largest fines in the Department of Aging's history, over $150,000. But for the Cultures and other elderly advocates, it was too little, too late.
I wish we would have caught it sooner, so she wouldn't have had to endure the things that she did.
I want you.
House Bill 2172, currently in front of a House committee. I will continue to track its progress. And then tomorrow, I'll tell you what happened to the people who the state says abused Donna in that video. That includes the nurses and the home's administrator. You may be surprised how it appears no state agency wants to take responsibility.
This is unbelievable. You heard the pain in the voice of the family members of this elderly lady. To live with that and knowing that my mother was abused, assaulted. I was told today that in some of these rest homes, they have sores as big as saucers on these people's bodies. And cruel things are done to these people. They go unattended. I don't understand why the conversation is not larger than what it is. Marty, maybe you can help me with that. Why are people not talking? Why are people not outraged? These are people's families, which
they are talking. They are outraged, and they've been screaming from the rooftops for years. One of the cases that, and in fact, Debbie Dahmer, who hosts a show on my channel of her own, the way I came to know her was, and you may remember, I don't know your age, but Chief White Owl of the Tomahawk Chop from World Federation WWF Wrestling. It was big when I was a kid, and he was instrumental, George Dahmer was instrumental in launching the wrestling mania thing that still goes on to this day. He in his later years had gotten dementia and would wander off. He had been hospitalized. Long story short, when they finally were able to rescue him, he had bed sores on his buttocks where the bone was showing. He had bed sores on the heels of his heel bone was exposed. He had lost 32 pounds in a month. He was dehydrated. He was malnourished. This man died a terrible death, and he was one of the most generous, loving people in his life that you would have ever wanted to know. The grief this has caused his family has been horrendous. Now, here, just this last year, his widow, Pat, won a wrongful death lawsuit in the state of Florida against the people who did this to her husband. She was awarded, I believe it was $1.7 million. The state of Florida took half of that settlement money and gave it to the Nursing Home Association to improve their services, which they did by improving the value of their property as near as we can tell. And no one can actually locate this law. No one can tell them where this law is. By the time they were forced to forfeit half of that settlement, and the attorney took his cut, Pat received very little of that 1.7 settlement. This goes on every single day. They now have a law in Florida that they're trying to pass to shield nursing home owners from being prosecuted for what happens in their, it's an immunity law. They're immune from prosecution for what happens in these nursing homes if they intentionally short staff do not take care of the people, cause tremendous pain, grief, and death, and they're shielding them. You can't touch them if that law passes. We have a bill out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do they anticipate that law actually passing?
Well, yes, they'll get it through. You've got Rick Scott down there, the governor, that ran one of the biggest Medicare scams in history, built Medicare out of $51 million when he headed up HCA Columbia, and he's governor of Florida, second term. It doesn't make any difference. We're dealing with old people here. It doesn't make any difference. It's old people.
It's unbelievable. I'm totally stunned right now, Marty, and I'll tell you this. We're going to cry out against it. We're going to send a letter from a just cause to the legislative branch down there in Florida and say, look, if you pass this law, what message do we send families all across this country?
Just like you don't understand. You don't understand. The biggest promoters of this is the bar associations. Who do you think wrote these statutes? Who do you think provides protection? Who do you think is invested in these nursing home corporations? The bar association fights these people every step of the way. If it looks like they're going to make any progress, they run in with bags of money and make sure that doesn't get changed, and it won't. It'll be the status quo and more protection for the perpetrators.
William?
Marty, I had a question for you. Because what you're talking about, when you're talking about bed sores on their back and on their heels, I mean, that's basic, that's something that's at the hospital. They constantly rotating their patients so they don't get bed sores. Why are these hospitals these assisted living facilities not, penalized for this, almost like, that you would see at a hospital?
Right. You would think they would be, but apparently there's a whole different set of rules for them, or there's rules that they are exempt from. They always have some kind of excuse. They're somehow excused for all of this activity, or when you talked about that $150,000 fine in that clip you did, that $150,000, this is a drop in a bucket. These people are making millions of dollars. $150,000 is a slap on the wrist, and it's an insult to the family. Yeah. You get fined, but you get to keep rolling just like you were. Where's the justice in that?
No, I agree, Marty, and your outrage is noted and understandable. This is incomprehensible to me. How do you treat people that way? I don't understand. And it comes down to big business. We have left culture of caring for one another, loving one another, and doing the golden rule I learned in kindergarten, doing unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I had to recite every day in elementary school, in my music class. Where has America gone so wrong? And I got the answer. Greed.
Yes.
Greed and money.
Yeah.
And
exactly. Like I say, they are buying, selling, and trading us. They have nothing else left of any value but us.
And my thought is...
They are selling us.
You're absolutely right, Marty. And my thought is to the veterans that are in some of these homes who fought on the battlefield for freedom that we enjoy today. How do we do this? To our veterans, I'm at a loss for words, Marty. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, do you have a few more minutes? I don't want to hold you too long tonight. I'd like to get your closing thoughts, how people can get involved with what you do, how we can become partners in addressing this on a large scale. We're going to get your thoughts on that. And ladies and gentlemen, go hug your grandmother right now, wherever you might be, because there are issues in this country with our seniors, and you're fortunate tonight if you're able to have that privilege and that honor to give a hug or a kiss and just a simple I love you tonight as we address the abuse of the elderly in America's rest homes and assisted living homes all across this land. We'll be right back with Marty Oakley. We'll be right back.
I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served a total of 16 years.
I was deployed 13 times. On my second deployment, 4 bombs hit my vehicle.
And at 19 years old, that's the first time I ever saw somebody die.
Coming back, I was raging.
I started having pretty horrible nightmares. I would wake up in the middle of the night, sweats.
I started drinking a lot.
I felt worthless.
I guess I never recognized it in myself.
Eventually, one day, I just walked into the VA hospital and said I'd like to see somebody.
Don't suffer alone. You got to find that link with somebody that'll make you let it go.
It all starts with going to the VA. There's a whole community of veterans that just want to help you out.
It's for the guys who couldn't come back, so you owe it to them to live well, because they're not here with their families.
Over 1 million people are sitting in the prisons of America for nonviolent offenses. That's why I'm asking you to join the American Civil Liberties Union and help us in the fight to end mass incarceration. We spend over $80 billion a year incarcerating people. Alternatives to prison, like community service, drug treatment, and rehabilitation, costs less and can turn lives around. It's time for fair justice. It's time for smart justice. And we need your help.
There's a lot of mud when it rains here, and it makes it really hard to find food. There are car bombs every day. My mom worries about me when I go out. Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid. Sometimes I have nightmares about it. A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close. My dad says we have to leave, which makes me scared. I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us. What if they don't understand our religion? Because we don't speak the language, it might be hard for me to make friends. But I know it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words. These are not my words. These are not my words.
Here are 50 white guys. Here are 50 black guys. Here's how many white guys can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. The chances amount to 1 out of 17. Now here's how many black guys can expect the same thing. The chances are 1 out of 3. Why? Lots of reasons. It's complicated, but one thing is clear. There's racial bias at every level of the criminal justice system. When blacks and whites commit the same kind of crimes, blacks are more likely to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. Once convicted, they're more likely to serve longer sentences. Look at the numbers in America's so-called war on drugs. About 14% of American drug users are black, as are about a quarter of drug sellers. Yet blacks are 34% of the people arrested for drug crimes. And those convicted of drug crimes, 46% are black. By the time we factor in sentencing, there are actually more black drug offenders than white ones in state prisons and in federal prison. In the end, the incarceration rate for drug crimes is 10 times higher for blacks than it is for whites. These are the facts. Racial disparity in America's war on drugs is one big reason that 1 out of 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime.
And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen of America. This is AJC Radio, where we bring the message of justice all around the world. Tonight, again, not being an exception, a very sad and troubling topic tonight, but one that has to be addressed. The elderly of this country are being thrown away, treated worse than enemies who are in confinement and have committed crimes against the United States. These seniors in rest homes are being treated worse than prisoners of war of the United States. That, I'm going to yield to you, Dennis, on this one. When you're talking about, and Marty explained some of the horrific things, you have these folks strapped down in chairs, drooling, not being taken care of, and on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, sexual assault on seniors who are physically unable, many of them paralyzed on parts of their body, and suffering from dementia. And you have employees raping these seniors. They're guarded better at what's the place? Guantanamo? Is that what it's called? They're guarded better there. Talk to us.
Yeah, there's laws that we have that you have to treat a prisoner of war in such a way. I mean, we're looked at as the United States as we're very careful about what is known out in the community. But when we're talking about our seniors, though, I tell you again, I speak accountability, and I'm talking about harsh for whatever was done, whatever was dealt. It need to be dealt back lawfully in the same manner. I mean, owners. Maybe it's not the owner's fault all the time, but they still have to be held accountable because they own that property. They're getting paid. They're getting government funding. They should be held accountable as well as the employee. And if that means shutting them down, we need to shut them down. I mean, until we take that hard, aggressive role in protecting our seniors, it's going to continue to happen over and over again, and nothing's going to be done.
Look, if I'm head of my company and there is fraud going on, well, I'm the president of the company. You think the FBI is going to the janitor's closet to pick him up? He's going at the top because you're responsible technically. It is your obligation. It is your responsibility to be aware of what's going on in your organization.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways. Well, I'm not going to be held accountable, but I'll cut the check.
Exactly.
I'll cash the check, but don't hold me accountable for anything going on. That is in a fairy tale. That's not real life. Marty, this issue that we're talking about tonight, and I think it's important to be understood that the bottom line is these people have to be held accountable. How does an owner not own ownership of an issue at his company? That's his job to fire, to replace, to ensure that you are supposed to go to those facilities. What's going on here? You are to delegate authority to the people in charge. Who do you have running that facility if you're an out-of-state owner? What is his accountability? What is he doing? The buck stops with the president or the owner of these organizations. What are your thoughts?
Well, the problem is, as you've seen across the board in every other situation, I'll use as an example when the housing market collapsed and we saw all of this corruption in banking in Wall Street. Did you notice not one of them got prosecuted? Not one of these CEOs went to prison. They went home to their palatial estate in their chauffeur-driven car, had a nice dinner, and went to bed. And people are still losing their homes at the rate of $250,000 a month to these fraudulent loans, and these were the people responsible. This is fascism. This is corporate control of the government. This is the government acting as a corporation. They have declared themselves immune. They have declared themselves off the hook.
Listen to this, Marty. And to our listeners, this is a study prepared by ABC News, prepared by the Minority Democratic and Independent Staff of Special Investigations Division of the House Government Reform Committee. We were talking about congressional folks that are looking into this. And this states that 30% of nursing homes in the United States, 5,283 facilities, were cited for almost 9,000 instances of abuse over a recent 2-year period. Now, this is way back. This is back before the new millennium, but they were citing the numbers from 99 to 2001. Now, it's gotten worse since then. Yes. They're saying 9,000 instances back here. We're talking almost 20 years ago.
Yes.
Were cited. That number has had to have quadrupled or fallen off the chart because they say the numbers continue to grow, Marty. And it says here that common problems included untreated bed sores, inadequate medical care, malnutrition, dehydration, preventable accidents, inadequate sanitation and hygiene. Many of the abuse violations caused harm to the residents. How am I dehydrated in a rest home? That's somebody's paying for.
Well, and see, you're bringing up points that they don't want you to bring up. You're not supposed to ask those questions. You're not supposed to think about that. You know.
Listen to me. Look, in jail, as bad as the food is, I had as much water as I wanted to drink.
Mm-hmm.
You understand, as an elderly person, as a senior citizen, as seniors get older, care has to be taken even more seriously as far as their bodies, as far as their needs, as they get older. And how does a rest home have sanitation issues, hygiene issues? Mm-hmm. How is that even possible?
You don't want to spend the money.
But you want to make the money.
Yes.
But I also think some of it.
Go ahead, Marty.
Well, I was just going to say, many times I have said to people who listen to my show, if you're in danger of being sent to one of these warehouses, run out and rob a bank, because you'll be far treated better in the prison system than you will in that nursing home. Go commit a crime, get yourself put in prison. At least you'll get medical care, you'll get dental care, you'll have eyeglasses, dentures if you need them, a hearing aid if you need it, access to TV, and you can freely associate. You can have visitors. You can make phone calls. You're far better off in prison.
Do you understand how bad that really is? That the fact that that's even true. I was wrongfully convicted, Marty, and spent 7 years in the state penitentiary here in Colorado.
Oh, my God. Oh,
and no one could ever convince me that there was anything good about prison. Now, and I say this to make this to speak to your analogy you made. Go rob a bank, because you're going to be better off in prison than in a rest home.
Yes.
In free society. That
tells you we have a serious problem.
That is a problem.
It needs to be addressed. I mean, I'm hearing Marty Oakley. I mean, wow. I mean, that's putting it blunt, but we need to do that. I mean, we need to put it out there to make sure America understands how bad of a situation this is. Our seniors are dying, and they're not dying of old age. They're dying of mistreatment, malnutrition, all kinds of stuff.
Malnutrition.
Come on, I mean, and we need to address it.
That's unbelievable.
There are groups all over the net. One of the groups I would suggest that, and if you'll allow me to, I'd like to introduce you to the Whistleblowers group, headed by Marcel Reed and Michael McRae. They're part of the Acorn 8, and I've been doing shows with their whistleblowers for 2 years on Thursday evenings, coming out of these federal agencies, VA. I also do a show on Friday mornings on veterans issues, and much of what that is dedicated to is community services being provided by common everyday citizens to our veterans that the VA isn't providing. Respite care, counseling, just a chance to heal, to try and assimilate back into society, rather than the drugging that they are doing to our veterans, like they're doing to our seniors. This thing of 22 veterans a day committing suicide, that's not suicide in most cases. They have been drugged to death. And it's cost shifting. And we're doing the same thing with the elderly. We drug them. We charge outrageous fees for what we do to them. And I say we because we have stood by as a country and allowed this horrendous system to develop. And we have been regaled with a dialogue that says we don't care about our elderly. We can't wait to get rid of them. But they don't tell you that the truth is these people many times are captured under these guardianships, and they are installed into one of these warehouses, and immediately all contact is cut off. And the shock to these people is horrendous. Just imagine you talk about being imprisoned for a crime you didn't commit. Imagine being 60s, 70s, 80s, and ripped away from everything you know, isolated from everyone and everything you know, and then treated the way they're treated in these homes. If they're committing suicide, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But I think it is a sad and dismal state of affairs, and you have to understand this is about power. Who has the power to destroy the family? It isn't gays and their agenda. It isn't the Muslims and their religion. It isn't the people next door that you don't like. It's the government. That who has the power to destroy the family, and they are doing it, from the elderly all the way down to children that they force into foster care, that they forcibly adopt out after they've taken them from their families. This is a system that is put in place. As I said at the beginning of the show, we have been commodified. We are the last thing of value this country had, and the only thing this country has ever had of any real value has been its people. And they have split us up, they have commodified us, sectioned us off, and they are buying, selling, and trading us. And they're making money doing it.
Listen to this. It says, a question was asked on that report I just cited. How common is elder abuse in nursing homes? It's an unfortunate fact that abuse occurs in all types of environments. Nursing homes are not immune. In fact, studies have shown that older persons who live in community settings such as nursing homes are abused more often than older persons living in other settings. More than 3 million persons currently live in nursing homes in our country. And back in the year 2000, studies conducted by the National Center on Elder Abuse of more than 2,000 nursing home residents found that 44% of them had been abused. And 95% of those surveyed reported they had been neglected or had seen others neglected. Perhaps even more compelling, those same studies found that more than 50% of nursing home staff admitted to mistreating nursing home patients.
Yeah, isn't that a testament to who we are?
That is how do you confess that in clear conscience? That I have mistreated an old person, an elderly person. Like, it's just the thing to do. I'm going to play another clip, Marty, and matter of fact, I'm going to play another clip. We're going to come back and we're going to close out with you. So you can let folks know how they can be a part of that. We don't want to hold you. We want to be respectful of your time. You have been a delight tonight, an informative piece of information that you have provided for our listeners. I think you should be commended for the work that you do. Let's hear this clip. We're going to come back with you and get your thoughts on it.
Good evening and welcome to 16 by 9, The Bigger Picture. It's never an easy decision to place a loved one in a nursing home. And for many families, the constant worry of how they're cared for is stressful. Tonight, 16 by 9's Leslie Roberts brings you a story about how one daughter went to extremes to expose how her mother was being treated. And what she caught on tape is disturbing.
This is the video that's causing shock and outrage for a London, Ontario family. It's a video that no son or daughter should have to see of their 89-year-old mother handled carelessly.
Oh, we were horrified. We were horrified. Absolutely.
Janet Brummel can barely watch this video of her own mother.
Makes you sick.
This fragile, elderly woman you see here struggling to stand was a beloved mother and grandmother. Her name is Jean Holden. She was born in Montreal in 1920. She was a graduate of McGill University with a Bachelor of Science. She was a woman ahead of her time.
My mother could be very feisty. She just had lots of spirit. And she didn't take no lying down, so to speak.
But in this video, this once vibrant woman is not even strong enough to fight back or speak out for herself. And what happened to her in this nursing home has her family feeling angry and guilty.
Oh, it's too hard.
Hard for Janet to talk about after making a hard decision of placing her mom in a home that offered 24-hour care. She said she had no choice after watching her mom's health slowly deteriorate. Janet came here to Longworth Long-Term Care. It's in London, Ontario, where she thought her mom was going to get top-rate care.
It would look clean, it's new.
But then she started to wonder about her choice.
You'd be sitting at the little coffee thing in the front hall, and they would wheel coffins by with a dead person in it to the hearse. They wheel them right by the coffee area. Isn't that awful?
And then came some serious care issues.
I noticed she was all hot and everything. I said, Mom, what's going on? And there she was. They had given her a shower, put her nightie on, then put her clothes on top of her nightie. So when at bedtime at 7 o'clock, they wouldn't have to just take off her clothes, and she's all nightied up.
And then came the bruises.
She would complain about the night staff being rough, which I found bruises, which I pointed out to them on her wrists at the beginning.
Janet complained over and over again and started visiting her mother more and more.
That's why I had to go all the time. It was just constantly checking up. One time they sent her to Emerge at 8 in the morning. I was at work, and I hear this message. They didn't phone my daughter. They didn't call my cell phone. Nothing.
And then the final straw.
I walked into her room one afternoon and found her soaking wet with her underwear around her ankles, lying in her bed, soaking wet. Now, why? That finished me. That's what got me to buy the camera. They tried to insinuate she did it to herself. This woman could not roll her underwear down around her ankles.
Janet was so outraged, she went out and purchased a hidden camera. It cost her $700.
I'd place it here like this between two photographs. Okay, now this is the worker who's obviously getting the bed ready. And she's obviously, I guess, thinking, how am I going to get her into bed?
Janet's giving us a play-by-play of this disturbing video she captured with her hidden camera that she placed inside her mother's room.
So she leans her up against the bed here, and puts her arm against her there to try and hold her up. My mother cannot support her own weight, and she crashes to the floor.
89-year-old Jean Holden falls hard, and then watch what her personal support worker does next. She picks up poor Jean Holden like a rag doll and just tosses her on the bed. She then continues to get Jean ready for bed like nothing happened.
This is the part that gets me. See, she's looking at the door.
Wait a minute.
Oh, my God. I want to...
Well, there you have it. What a sad story. We're going to play part 2 of that here momentarily, but I want to give Marty Oakley, who I call an angel in this hour, fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. And those would be the seniors, somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, aunt, brother, father, you name it. This is the most tragic thing I think that I've reported on this show in quite some time. And there's been a lot, so I don't want to say that. We've dealt with human trafficking. We've dealt with homelessness. We've dealt with veterans. We've dealt with all type of tragic stories. This goes to the top of that list. Marty, I don't know what to say. I mean, you have this family heartbroken.
Yes.
And the images that are in the minds of these family members of seeing this on hidden camera, that you treated my mother this way, those are memories they can never, ever erase from their mind. That's why something has to be done. Your thoughts on that?
It should never happen, and these families carry a tremendous amount of guilt, thinking they did the right thing for that elderly person. Them putting the hidden camera in. This is one of the problems. One of the things we have been demanding is that there be surveillance in these nursing homes 24/7. They come back with that's a violation of HIPAA, protecting the rights of the patient to privacy. No, when you put them in that home, you have a right to protect them, yes. But it isn't about privacy. It's about protecting the owners and the workers from being exposed for exactly what you're talking about, this abuse and neglect, sometimes sexual abuse. but the god-awful treatment these people most times receive in these homes. That's what that's about. HIPAA is not about protecting the patient. It's about protecting the providers of all kinds, medical, the nursing home, whomever, from being exposed for wrongdoing. That's what HIPAA is. It's no benefit to the patient. But I am all for surveillance. It should be constant and chronic, and I think the maximum penalty should be levied against anyone who facilitates, allows, or participates in the abuse of elders in these places.
No, I totally agree with you, Marty, and your passion, your outrage is respected here on AJC Radio, and our listeners, I'm sure, appreciate that as well. Marty, I'm going to be definitely touching base with you offline, that we work together and do what we can. We're going to try to post your information on our websites as an advocate and recognize you as such. One who is out here fighting for the rights of these seniors. My heart is broken tonight when I hear these stories of abuse, and my heart goes out to the families. And then to lose this loved one with those lasting memories of abuse left to ponder for years to come is the most horrific tragedy of them all. If people want to get a hold of you, Marty, I'm definitely going to tune into your show as well. How can folks listen in? How can folks contact you to say, look, what you said tonight impacted me. What can I do? What information can you give our listeners on this?
Well, I run a website called the PPJ Gazette, and that's www.ppjg.me. That's like pop.jump.go.me. You can find me easily. I have a radio show on Blog Talk also called TS Radio, like Twisted Sister, I like to call it. TS Radio on Blog Talk, and we have several different topics we cover. Like I say, whistleblowers, guardian abuse, conservator abuse, animals, we veterans, the whole 9 yards. We try to hit it all. I'm easily reachable. You can get me at ppj1@hush.com.
ppj1@hush.com. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes.
All right. Folks, definitely
and I
get a hold.
do really would like to talk with you offline.
Oh, Marty, I will be in touch with you. I promise you that. You've been a delight, and it's our honor and our privilege to have you on this show tonight to shine the light on the corruption and the human rights violations going on with our seniors is unthinkable and needs to be dealt with, and we intend to work together with you here at AJC Radio and a Just Cause to get that message out.
We appreciate all the help we can get.
Okay. Take care. You have a good rest of your evening, okay?
You too. Thank you.
All right. Take care. And there you have it. Marty Oakley. Wow. Firecracker, if you will, and very sincere in her perspective of this war. This is no less than war on a society that has forgotten what it means, in my opinion, what decency is, and to treat other human, just to be a human being, and to treat a human being this way troubles my mind. We're going to get ready to go into part 2 right now of that report of the family suffering what they have gone through in regards to this. So let's go ahead and play that clip now.
There is a lot more activity on the tape, but according to Janet, it takes 38 minutes before the registered nurse on duty comes in the room.
Why did she then proceed to get her ready for bed? She didn't call anybody in at that point. I have to presume my mother was unresponsive. That's why she called. This is the RN.
Janet says this video of her mother is very important because had she not had it, this is what the nursing home wanted her to believe.
I left a message on my machine. Your mother has fallen. Please call us. The girl said, oh, yes, the personal support worker. Your mother was in her wheelchair when she went to the bathroom to get a face cloth. In that time, at 20 seconds, she was away. Your mother fell out of her wheelchair.
The very next day, Janet confronted the home with her video.
I said, I understand my mother's fall was from falling out of her wheelchair while the nurses got her a Facebook. Yes. I said, well, not so. I have it on camera. And she just looked at me like deer in headlights.
And the representative she spoke to was furious about the camera.
They treated me like I was the criminal. They told me to take the camera out of the room. I said, this is legal. I checked with a lawyer. They said, well, no, it's not.
The reality is that having a hidden camera in a home is a legal gray zone.
I checked with a lawyer. He said it was not illegal to do it. And it's not legal either. You see, there's that sort of gray area, and that's my mission in this, is to have it be allowed that if the family or the residents, power of attorney, whatever, want a camera in the room, they should be allowed.
The worker was fired, and just 3 weeks later, Jean Holden was dead.
I just felt badly, you know. She's had the last 6 months was, or even year, was really unhappy. And I feel very guilty that she had to go through this.
In search of answers, we took Janet's story straight to the Seniors Home Administration. Longworth Residence is owned by Sifton Properties. It operates 4 homes in all, mostly in London, but also one in Mississauga, Ontario. They're well respected in the industry. General Manager Dale Pino agreed to talk to us.
You know what is on that video, and you know that there was an email that was sent out that contradicted, and almost she felt she was lied to about what happened to her mother.
I think it's always a disappointment when we can't meet people's needs. And, we're very sorry that she felt that she had no other recourse.
Can you explain why the email says something different than the video camera?
I'd like to be able to clarify that, but I really can't comment on that.
Why not?
Again, there are privacy issues that are at play here.
Privacy issues, the same reasons the home asked Janet to remove the camera, but it's to protect the employee's privacy, not Janet's mom's.
What are you afraid of with these cameras?
I think there's a very real concern that without any controls on the information that may be captured by a hidden camera, that there's the opportunity for that to be exploited. We want to make sure that we don't have anything that would disrupt our atmosphere of trust and care in the building.
It's not an isolated incident.
Betty Miller heads Guardian Angels. It's a nonprofit group that advocates for better care in seniors' homes.
You have to have a lot of compassion and understanding to work with older people, with the elderly.
Like Janet, Betty says, you have to take the care of your loved ones into your own hands.
You have to be there. Ask questions. You have every right to know the medications your loved one's on, know what they're doing. Come surprise visits. Don't say when you're coming. You can come any part of the day or night, that sort of thing.
And install a camera.
Definitely.
So when you're not there.
That's right.
We then took Janet's story and the hidden camera videotape to Ontario's Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, Deb Matthews.
I think it's important that we all have confidence that our parents, our grandparents are being well looked after. So, as I say, I need to learn more about it, but it certainly has captured my interest.
Betty says without the backup of camera footage, families are afraid to speak out for fear of retaliation against their loved ones in the seniors' homes. And she says with the aging population, she fears it's going to get worse. The issue isn't going away, and Betty says cameras are part of the solution.
Let's put in the cameras. The good workers have nothing to fear. Nothing. It's a necessary thing to do, to put in a camera. It gave peace of mind, strangely enough. And it's a very sad state of affairs for the elderly. You know, they're neglected and they're abused. And as I say, if these were children, people would be outraged.
Yeah, there you have it. That's very true. The point, I like what she just said, is that if these were children, you couldn't stop the world from starting or getting on a platform to address these issues. This is sad to me, but this is what AJC Radio is about, is to inform our listeners and people around the world of injustice. And injustice comes with many faces. The fact that an owner the owner would feel like they're not liable in Florida, shame on you to even consider a law or legislation that protects the owners from basically giving them immunity? Are you kidding me? Shame on the state of Florida, whoever is behind that. I'm sure those legislators would think differently if it was their mom or their dad or their sister or their brother. This is sick, and sick with a capital S, that needs to be addressed, and we will continue to crowd against this. A very special thanks to Marty Oakley tonight. I'll tell you what, a woman that her passion, her sincerity is clear to protect our seniors. Because whether you believe it or not, folks, many of us are going to become seniors. How would we want to be treated? And would we want someone to be a voice for us? This is AJC Radio, addressing abuse of the elderly in rest homes across the land. We'll be right back.
We have a big problem, and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop. We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
I don't have to tell you about the challenges we face every day. That would be like preaching to the choir. Yeah. Today you have a chance to face the challenge of your risk for diabetes. My dad had diabetes, and 1 in 4 U.S. adults are at risk, myself included. If you're older than 45 or African American, that risk increases. So here's a chance to ask yourself, what can I do? Talk to your doctor about getting screened and know what your options are. Learn more at AskScreenKnow.com.
I've been getting mixed messages about women and violence. I need a little clarification.
Uncle Bill, how am I supposed to grow up to respect women when I have such lousy role models?
Boys are never going to approach you.
Can you help me reshape my attitudes towards women?
You need to teach them that violence against women is wrong.
Well, folks, welcome back into AJC Radio. I'm Lamont Banks along with Cliff Stewart, Dennis Merritt, William Williams, Lisa on assignment tonight. But tonight has been interesting as we were privileged and honored to have Marty Oakley, a true advocate, if you will. Primary focus, her focus is advocating against elderly and guardian conservator abuses and family court abuses. And I tell you what, Dennis, she gave a clear perspective on really, and it's not a pretty picture, but she gave it anyway. It tells you her heart is in the right place dealing with advocacy in this issue.
Oh, yes. I truly enjoyed her on the show because she was straightforward and very knowledgeable. She was just talking off the cuff. She was really talking about the problem that we have in our senior living areas. I mean, it's just sad, but I'm so glad that we have advocates out there like her that truly understands, what needs to be done, how we need to fix it. And in that clip, I think we do need to have cameras. I mean, someone should be allowed to put a camera in there. What do you have? What are you hiding?
Listen, Dennis, you got cameras in hotels, in elevators, for accountability. Without cell phones, we'd have never caught the abuses of Ferguson.
Exactly.
This is you can give it whatever nice dressed up name you want to give it to fight against cameras. If I go to work every day and you can put cameras in AJC Radio, you're not going to see nothing different.
Exactly.
We're here as advocates. We have nothing to hide. But the fact that the pushback, we had the same issue with police body cams. There was a pushback initially until the abuse became so random And so it increased in number. Police departments everywhere had to say, we better put these on because otherwise it looks like we do have something to hide. This privacy crap, that's a bunch of junk. Because the issue is you don't have to go in the bathrooms with the elderly. You don't have to have cameras in there. But I'm talking day-to-day operations. That's not a violation of privacy if you're doing your job. So that's something that we definitely got to take a look at. Ladies and gentlemen of America, go hug your mom tonight. Hug your grandmother, your grandfather, your dad, and say, you know what? If we got to push a little harder maybe and ensure that you're safe, we'll have to keep mom at home with us. That's just the way it's going to have to work. And you got to make a decision. Do I want my mother in a situation where, or my father, or a loved one in a situation where I'm not sure? The statistics we read tonight are serious. Something to take a look at. And we're going to be discussing this and other issues of injustice as we continue here on AJC Radio. So next time, America, good night.
You hire someone to take care of an elderly loved one only to find out that very person you trusted is abusing them. The I-Team's Lisa Robinson has a case where the video is undeniable, but the quest for justice is just beginning. She joins us from the Update Center with the story. Lisa?
Well, after a series of strokes, Jackie Taylor brought her father home to be cared for. This spring, she hired help, only to find out that help was abusing him. The tape you are about to see is disturbing, but needs to be seen.
You okay? You all right, darling?
Jackie Taylor says her 90-year-old father, John Taylor, is getting great care in the facility he's in now. She brought him to a nursing home after finding out he was being abused by his home caretaker. Taylor says she knew because of the security cameras she installed in their home. And this is what she saw 54-year-old Anastasia Olowich do on 4 different days while her father was in her care.
And in the video I saw, she's taking her fist and hitting him in the chest. She was hitting him in the stomach, hitting him in the arm. I mean, and then when we looked back a few days before, she had him on his side. She actually was taking her knuckles and she was banging him on the side of his temples, slapping him in the back of his head.
Mr. Taylor had suffered 2 strokes and was unable to defend himself or communicate. Police arrested Olowich and a grand jury indicted her on multiple counts of assault, abuse of a vulnerable adult, and reckless endangerment. August 8th, she was to stand trial, but didn't show up.
The state would like to go forward with this case. A warrant has been issued for her arrest, and we are asking the authorities to seek her via the warrant and bring her to justice.
Since the beatings, Mr. Taylor has suffered several brain seizures. Doctors can't say for sure if they are a direct result, but Jackie says her father's health has deteriorated since then. She says if you see this woman, contact police so they can bring her to justice.
This is a woman who sat in my dining room every day and supposedly read the Bible. And then you look at that video and you go, oh my God, what God was she serving? Because it's not the one I know.
Taylor says Olowich had also cared for some children in Pennsylvania and, according to court records, is a citizen of Kenya. Her last known residence is located in northeast Baltimore.